Rock and roll Chicago, rock and roll Chicago, my hometown. Well, I was born in the city, gonna rock your city, Chicago. Chicago rock and rollers are the best here out around.
Hey, this is Paul Martin
And Ray the Roadie.
for the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast. Well, look at you, Ray. I see you.
I see you too. We haven't seen each other in a studio in over a year.
I know, and we're here. We're here back at the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum at our facilities here at the in Joliet, and it's great to be here.
Yes, it is. It's been a long time, and you look different than you do on Zoom.
I do.
Yeah, you actually have depth. You're just flat.
Oh, I see.
On the screen.
Yeah.
So it's. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen you in a year.
Well, thank goodness for Zoom though, because it's kept us going all this time.
Yeah, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for that. I don't know what we would have done.
I don't know, but we've got episode 90 coming up, right?
Yes, I'm just heading down that yellow brick road.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, it leads us right to Simply Elton.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, Simply Elton. We talked to Brian Harris, who is Simply Elton. Well, he's got some great stories. He's got he likes to talk.
Yeah, and he's a finely educated musician.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm.
I'd really love to go see him sometime soon. Unfortunately, he's playing right across the street from where we're at tonight. But I'm not going to be able to make it today.
Neither will I.
We'll have to check him out sometime soon. But let's check him out right now on the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.
Head on down the yellow brick road.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Today we're talking with Brian Harris, who is Simply Elton. How you doing, Brian?
Good. Thanks for having me in, guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for coming.
No problem. So so you're playing across the street tonight. We're at the Rock and Roll Museum. We're back here at the Rock and Roll Museum after doing a podcast for almost, well over a year, right?
Right.
Over a year via Zoom. We're back here at the Rock and Roll Museum on Road 66 in Joliet, and you're playing at the Forge tonight across the street.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. We've been playing some of the larger clubs. We played Pierre's in Fort Wayne last week, and the Forge here, and we've got the Hobart Theater coming up, and a bunch of festivals and things like that. So it's really great to see things come back like they have. It's really good.
Yeah. Did you have some time off there for a while? How did you survive the COVID thing?
Well, fortunately, I work also as an IT consultant, and it was a strange coincidence that in March of last year, in 2020, we had all our gigs canceled, both my solo performances and as well as band, and everything just fell through. And right about the same time, I got a call. I was not working currently at the time at United Healthcare, and I got a call from the director I work with, and she said, "We need you to come help with a COVID-related project." So it was sort of, the virus taketh and then the virus giveth. For me.
Yeah.
But then things started to open up a little bit. We did some shows, and we did one band show last year in June, I think it was, at CD and Me. Then we had I had some solo things that were coming up that were, which works very well with the limited capacity that they would have for the venues I played, the restaurants and that kind of thing. And then up through September that went, but then everything got crazy again after that. And
Right.
So everything dried up, and it's been slow in coming through the beginning of this year, but the summer is just jam packed with everything. So it's great to see it really.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Good to hear that you're back out there playing again.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit. Well, let's start with your early years. How did you get into? You play piano, obviously, right? And how did you get started in the music business?
I started. Well, let's put it this way. I started when I was 5 years old, and then I quit. And I didn't really look at it. I was very into baseball and, that kind of thing.
Sure, as every kid is. Right?
Yeah, sure. Especially when I was growing up, that was the thing, And what I found then, I asked my sister, because my sister used to play piano, and I was about 12. And I said, "Can you teach me just one song?" And she was happy to teach me one song. And I thought, maybe I'll do another one. And of course, my parents were always very supportive, and they got me into music, and they said, we'll give you lessons if you want. You just ask and we'll get them. And so I did that, and I got more and more and more and more into it. So I kind of had a dual thing. I loved rock and roll. I actually grew up really loving like progressive rock with Keith Emerson, Rick Wakeman of Yes, and Genesis, and all these groups, that I really liked a lot. And yet I also really was working classical music a great deal, and some jazz as well. So I ended up going to Hart School of Music in the University of Hartford for a classical piano degree, a bachelor's in classical piano performance. And I got out of school and I wanted to keep playing. I wasn't, as much as I liked teaching, I did some teaching here and there and that kind of thing, but I was really always a player. And so I did that for a number of...
That's the piano, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely. I should say that. Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is because I always knew Elton John's music. I mean, who didn't?
Sure.
And I knew a lot of the songs, and I would play them when I'd play little piano bar things and that kind of thing. But I never imagined that it would ever lead to that. We didn't know what the tribute thing was going to be about back then. So I went through the years. I was in the Army Band for 3 years at Fort Sheridan here in Illinois, and I spent a good 3 years there. But I got out of that after I was ready to move into the corporate world, and my sons were growing up. My wife and I have 4 sons. One of my sons he has an act called Gold House, and he has some national exposure with that. He was signed to Capitol Records for a time.
What does he play?
He plays a variety of different things. He can play the keyboards, but he's not a piano player per se, but he does a lot of producing and that kind of thing, a lot of remixing. He's been in LA. Right now he's in Nashville. But I have all my sons are musical. One of my sons is really the piano player out of the 4, and he can. I watch him play and think, well, there's not much more I can do on that piece than he's doing. He's really talented. Another son is a bass player and got a music degree also, and he's doing well. And then my son, one of my other sons, musically talented, but he's gone kind of a different way. He's a Starbucks manager on the rise and that kind of thing. So my wife and I are very proud of all our boys. I came back to music about 15, 20 years in the sense that, well, I kept playing through the years. I never let my chops get away from me. But I started to sing more because I'd never been a singer. I was always a piano guy. And the big thing about 10 years ago, 2010, 2011, was that I decided I wanted to try this Elton thing. I had backed up, I'd gotten with a group that had played, they backed up Elvis guys, Elvis tribute artists, and they were fun gigs. I wasn't necessarily an Elvis fan, but we played all over the country on weekends and that kind of thing. And they were fun shows to play, and I learned a lot about the tribute industry. And then that led to the Elton thing, to where I've come today with it.
What was the name of that band?
That was called the EAS Band.
Oh, okay.
It's a play on words, expense account show band. But it's expense because there was a guy named Spence, and they called it the expense account.
Oh, okay.
And we had a lot of fun. We went all over the place. They still are playing and backing up Elvis guys all over the place. And I worked with some other bands. There's a band called Change of Habit, and they're both based in the Chicago area. But we rarely play in the Chicago area. It's always playing festivals for the most part. But I stopped doing that in 2010 when I really started to want to get to my own thing. I also still will do progressive rock things. Like there's a group we call Fanfare, and it does Emerson, Lake and Palmer, which is a real challenge on the piano to have that kind of stuff down. And then a group called Grand Parade, which does the music of early Genesis, Peter Gabriel and early Phil Collins stuff. So those things are, I do that for the love of just playing it because I grew up loving that music.
Well, it sounds like you're pretty busy.
Yeah, it's I always find something. I always find a project. And the Elton thing, trying to, Elton is so unbelievably popular. I knew that going in, but I don't know that I knew how popular Elton is. I think I backed the right horse when I picked a tribute to do,
Now, I saw you were doing something. I saw on your website that you were doing something where you're playing full albums of Elton's at Reggie's or something. Was it?
That was a number of years ago.
Oh, was it? Okay.
But I did, and that was a great project. It was great to work with Reggie's that way because I would just go in and do a solo performance, but do the entire album. And that was at a period when I was really working on learning, just taking the 1970s and immersing myself in those albums. And that project to have to play them was a great way to like kick me in the ass to get out there and learn the songs. One of the observations I had from it was because I knew the Elton hits like everybody does growing up, but I didn't know a lot of the deep tracks that he had on some of these things, some of these albums. And it just struck me as like, wow, what I missed. There were so many great songs written, and the songwriting is amazing. And so that was a very fun experience to go through and learn them all and do that. So
you read music, right?
Yes.
Do you pick these songs up by reading them, or do you mostly by listening? Or both?
Both, mostly by listening. But if I have a book, I mean, I've purchased Billy Joel and Elton John books and that kind of thing. Those are helpful, but sometimes they're not as refined as when you listen to the actual recording. There's things they're doing that are not notated in those kind of bare bones music charts. And to get anything more, it's almost like, you know what, just listen to it and figure it out. And so that was most of it. But I still keep my reading up. I'll still work on Rachmaninoff and things like that when I'm, just to try to keep my chops up and not lose, what I have with reading and that kind of thing.
So after the full albums you were doing, is that when Simply Elton came to fruition?
Actually, Simply Elton started. I'd done a couple acts or a couple performances, just short little things in like 2010 and 2011. And then it was at the end of 2011, I kind of said, am I going to be able to do this? And it was not a question of the piano because, I can play the piano, and that was always a given. It was, can I sing a full night? Like tonight is a 2 long Elton sets. And in 2011, I at the end of it, I went and said, look, I'm going to try to do this. So I had to pick a name, and everything under the sun was picked. Captain Fantastic, Rocket Man, everything's going to be. So I looked for something, and I just said, Simply Elton. And it just came to me, and I feel good about that decision. It's very easy to remember and everything. We originally called the band the Brown Dirt Cowboys band because of Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. Then we found out, a lot of people don't necessarily know that. Even if they like Elton, they may not be, they didn't grow up with it and that kind of thing. And then when we did our Billy Joel act and call it Simply Billy and the Brown Dirt Cowboys, it didn't sound like a Billy Joel act. Right. It sounded like, shit kicking band, which is a good thing. I mean, that's a great kind of band. It's just that was not what we did. So we changed the name, and I said, Mad Hatters, I like that. And that really seems to fit, obviously, with Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters and that kind of thing.
So what worked out great is you already had all the outfits in your closet at home, right?
Yeah, right. No, I've dressed more like I am right now with, kind of just a T-shirt and then jeans on. What I had to do, that's where the working with all the Elvis guys that I worked with.
Came in handy, huh?
Yeah, because I learned backstage. You see, we had a broad spectrum of different Elvis artists that we worked with. We were hired, the EAS band was hired by Elvis Presley Enterprises. To come in. And so those are considered like huge major shows in that little cottage industry that is Elvis. I worked with some of the top guys in the world, if not the top guys in the world. And because some of them are, all over the place and travel all over the world. And we also played with some guys who were, just doing it because they loved it and had really, they just loved trying to do it, that kind of thing. And, but I saw the detail that they went in to purchase their outfits. They might be $2,500, $3,000 for some of those jumpsuits because they're so bedazzled with all that stuff. And it's a lot of piecework. And when they do contests, they get graded on the accuracy of their outfits.
Wow.
It's really intense. So for me, it was like the first thing I did then was I went online and I found out, and I looked at Elton, through the years, and I saw the 1984 Wembley Stadium concert. And he had this, it's a kind of a tux with tails, and it's black and white on the jacket and then white and black opposite on the pants.
Right.
And I looked at it with a straw boater kind of hat. And I said, you know what? I could wear that. So I went out and found a company that could create it for me. It's just over $1,000 to get it. So I had to invest some money to do that. And, and I got that. And then I went out and played the first show in this little bar in Chicago. And I go into the men's room to change in it, just starting right from there. And I looked in there in the mirror and I'm seeing myself in this outfit and thinking, are you really going to do that? but what I found was that people would smile when I came out and they'd say, holy crap, look at this guy. But it wasn't laughing. It was like, wow, that's really cool. And now let's see, can he really play?
Right.
Because I think people are thinking, Elton's really good. I'd like to, they want to see if you can really pull it off. So and after that, then when it seemed to be going well, I said, okay, let me see if I can get another outfit. I haven't spent money on having every outfit match something Elton wore, but I will get, like a sequin jacket or something like that. Something similar to what Elton might wear and those kind of things, and hats and glasses and everything.
I was going to say you'd have to have a seamstress on staff, right?
I do. The outfit I'll wear tonight to start, and the outfit that the Forge has listed, that's an outfit I made with this seamstress in town. I mean, she makes wedding dresses and stuff like that, but I bought a sharkskin suit. A shiny blue sharkskin suit. And then we designed how we're going to put, all over the arm with all this bedazzling and everything. So we got kind of creative. And then I bought this crazy, like a Generalissimo hat, which is all bedazzled also and stuff. So it's kind of fun, to go out with that. And people seem to gravitate towards it.
That adds a lot to the performance too. I mean, really,
it does.
When you're dressing like he did, people actually feel like you're him.
Yeah, they do. And I'm close enough. I don't look exactly like Elton, but I'm close enough where, you put a hat and glasses on. There he is, that kind of thing. And then it's just up to me. Can I
round glasses
deliver?
Or star glasses or something? And
yeah. He has the ones he wears now, and I've got like a boatload of them in there. I can choose, one of them. And that kind of thing. Another thing is, I haven't seen him wear them lately, but I picked up some men's platform disco shoes, and they're all glittered and everything. And the women, they really love them.
They're like impossible to walk in, though, aren't they?
I thought it was going to be a problem. It hasn't been really a problem. I've never fallen. So yeah, it's really crazy for me to go there with all that stuff. I think my wife thought I was like, okay, whatever, Brian, whatever. But it's been fun. I mean, even when I was doing progressive rock, when I was in my teens and 20s, playing with progressive rock bands, I like the idea of like Rick Wakeman, having a cape on and all that silly stuff. So it wasn't that big of a stretch for me to do an Elton thing. For me, it's, I'm not going to get into the dresses and he'll dress like Marie Antoinette and stuff. Yeah. That's not something I want to do, but I like to do the show for what it is with Elton in a really cool, crazy outfit. And then it's about the music. And, because Elton has all these great songs that are such a great vehicle for a piano player, singer. And I just love it, attacking those, and really going at the piano every night. It's just an absolute blast. I have the time of my life doing it.
So once you get dressed up, go out on stage, you sit down, do you become Elton?
Do you channel him?
I'll say it this way. I don't think of it that way, but what I do is I do go into kind of a zone. Mm-hmm. And I know that when I'll play a performance over the years in clubs and things where people can come right up to me, and people who know me will come up to me, and it's like I'm looking right through them. I realize after the fact that they said they came up, like my cousin's kids came up one time, and I was like talking to them, not even realizing who they were, that kind of thing. And it's interesting, but there are times too, I'll be on stage looking like in a theater and looking out. And, there's, especially if there's a really nice crowd out there, you look out and it's almost like, boy, am I lucky to be able to do this. Mm-hmm. Because for a couple hours, you get to actually, you get to live the life of what Elton John, I don't know if the numbers are the same, certainly, right. But you've got a huge crowd packed in and they're going crazy for the Elton music. And I'm getting to lead the show. And, I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. And I go with it and just appreciate it. For one thing, after the show, I take it off the outfit and I'm dressed like I am now. People don't even know who I am. Mm-hmm. And that's also not a bad thing. I think, you see what Elton's gone through in his life. It's good he's worked things out now at the end. But for me, it's like I get to spend a couple hours up there and living the life, and then just go back to, sort of like when you see Ozzy Osbourne at home. Yep. Right. In his show, that's kind of me forgetting to take out the garbage and stuff like that.
Have you ever done a show with like an actual grand piano doing the Elton?
Yeah, there's literally only once. There is a theater in Wisconsin called the Century Theater, and it's in Stevens. I think that's Stevens Point. It's owned by an insurance company, and they only allow use of it free. It's a great theater for events that are, for charitable reasons and things like that. So it's a nice thing that they have there. And they have a couple grand pianos, full 9-foot, and we got to use one for it, and it was really cool. So I definitely got some pics of that, mm-hmm. because it's a great look, but also just to be able to play it, it was really a blast. Because, I used to do that all the time when I was in college and that kind of thing. We had 9-foot grand pianos all over the place.
Right. You use, you've got an electronic keyboard that you use now, right?
Yeah. I bought a lot of piano bars will buy a piano shell, or they'll have a piano that's been, gutted, mm-hmm. and they'll put an electronic keyboard in there. They don't have to have it tuned and that kind of thing. So I looked online back in 2011 and found that I could purchase a piano shell, which is made with lighter wood, so you can bring it around. So literally in my van, that piano shell is in there. It's about 5 feet. And, you put it up on stage. It has metal legs, but you put sleeves over it. So it really looks like a grand piano. People think it's a grand piano, mm-hmm. which is great. Then I just put a Roland RD 2000 and it really dresses it up. And I use it whenever I can, sometimes smaller venues, or if the stage is pretty small, it's, it would really, jumble the band into a tight little corner. But
So you said that you were never a singer. Some of Elton's stuff is pretty high. Did you manage to overcome all that and get those, hit some of those notes that Elton hits?
Fortunately, Elton's more like a tenor. Not a tenor like Steve Perry or something or anything like that. Not a high tenor, but and especially when he was young, he was hitting those higher notes. So I do it through a combination. I mean, I'm like a high baritone, close to a tenor. And what's happened is over the years, with all the singing that I have been doing, it has helped my range for one thing. My falsetto is stronger, so that with a little bit of mic technique, I can be singing in full voice. And then if I go to falsetto for a couple notes or whatever, depending on the song, I'll kind of, eat the mic a little more so that I'll get a little more volume out of it. And, it seems to have gone pretty well that way. When I first started at the end of 2011, like I said, I was trying to figure out how to, if I could really sing this. I remember my wife went out she went to visit her mother for a weekend, and I was left home. And I thought, well, I'm going to treat this like 2 nights, playing 2 75-minute sets each night, sing the whole thing. It was not a problem vocally. Elton has these songs like something like sad songs or something where it doesn't hit any ridiculously high notes. It just hangs way up there for the whole song. And those kind of songs will be, over the course of a full night, can be taxing on you. What I ran into was I did that the first night, and I didn't realize when I was singing, because I was up there, I had my shoulders really, clenched, for most of the 2 nights. And I got my back so incredible. I had to go to a chiropractor to try to get him. And he told me, just by spending 3 or 4 hours, each night, like that. And it really clenched me up. And he said, well, dude, I can help you, but it's really bad what you got. So it finally worked out. But what I learned from that was I relaxed then when I went back to it, and I never had the problem again. So I just had to be cognizant of it, not to tense up when I'm trying to hit those notes.
So you mentioned simply Billy or Billy Joel. Do you do any Billy Joel in your Elton set, or do you just do strictly Elton?
Yeah, I typically will do a little bit of each in either act. Like tonight, it's a longer night tonight. So we're actually doing several Billy Joel songs, which is less usual for us. Typically, I'll do Piano Man because nobody's going to complain about hearing Piano Man. Mm-hmm. And, the tie-in is so direct because they've done their duo shows together and all that kind of thing. So tonight we'll throw in some things. I mean, you might also hear It's Still Rock and Roll to Me and that kind of thing, just to, since it is a longer night. And I may also stretch out on piano a little bit more. We are careful about how we approach the set list when it's a 45-minute set for a festival or a 90-minute set versus, a full night of, 2 full 75-minute sets or something like that. When you have to watch, if you're playing for a festival crowd, you have just a lot of people there. You focus on the hits and that kind of thing mostly. But for, other nights, you can go into, some deep tracks and kind of things like whether you'd play Madman Across the Water or, I would love to play those kind of songs, and have, Half the Night, Madman Across the Water and Empty Garden and, Tonight and all these great Elton songs. But, it is a tribute and people are there and I want to give them, what they want with it. So there's a balance there.
When are you gonna come down? When are you going to land? Should have stayed on the farm. I should have listened to my old man. You can't hold me forever. Didn't sign up with you. Not a present for your friends to roam in. This boy's too young to be singing.
Then you do a Billy Joel show as well, correct? Do you say an Elton costume?
No, what I'll do is, first of all, I don't really look like Billy, obviously. I mean, if you look like one of them, you don't look like the other, right? Because they're very, they look very different, obviously. So Billy Joel for me is more like an homage to his music and that kind of thing. And I will wear something similar to what he'll wear. Like sometimes he would wear a blazer with jeans and sneakers.
Right.
I might do that, but sometimes I have other sharkskin suits, which I haven't made into Elton outfits, like a purple one, a black one, and a silver one. And I'll wear that for a Simply Billy show, and it's just a really snappy suit and a nice look and everything like that. He might have done more of that like later with, some of the later music that he did and some of the videos. So I'm not so worried about that because the focus on Billy Joel show really isn't about, crazy outfits when, he's just very dressed down for the most part. But we don't do nearly as many Billy Joel shows. It came about later in the first place. I didn't start it till about 3 or 4 years later. But it's a really nice addition. We can sometimes open with Billy and then close with Elton. Or like I have Green Bay Botanical Gardens on July 16th, I think. And we're going up and just playing a full night of Billy Joel up there. And like I say, we'll throw in things tonight, and other nights. But when we play the Billy Joel show, we'll probably throw Benny and the Jets in or something like that too.
Right. Do you do any solo stuff? Come out and just play by yourself without the band when you have the band with you?
Not typically, but tonight I may do because we're kind of stretching out and doing some. It's a longer night. Like I might play a little snippet of a Chopin thing. I might do, one of his movie era songs or something just on my own, that kind of thing. Just, to kind of change things up a little bit.
So tell us about the band. Who's in your band?
Well, I've got people that I've worked with a long time. Our singer she's a terrific singer. I'm kind of humbled that someone with a voice like that would sing backing vocals for myself, not having been a singer my whole life. And her name is Shar McAllister. And Shar is, I met her when I was playing with the group Deacon Blues. But Shar was a singer in that band. And we just, had a nice connection and we're still good friends. And we enjoy, singing and working together. So, so she has her original music. She's doing all her things too. On drums, we've got a guy, Jason Parks, and I met Jason in the band, the EAS band that I was talking about earlier. And Jason was running that band with the drummer of the band. Jason is my drummer, but he was also playing backing keys. He's a very versatile guy. He's owned his own studios. He's owned his own sound and lighting companies, and he's done. So it's very helpful to have a drummer that has that production and the technical side down too. On top of that, he's a wonderful backing vocalist, and he absolutely nails it with, and knows all the parts, and he's been doing it for decades, so he's really terrific at it. And then on guitar, we have Bill Dalton, and Bill and I met in the Elvis world. Bill is actually really in demand. He gets calls all the time to do some Elvis shows and that kind of thing. So we're working on that, to make sure we're in sync with our schedules and that kind of thing. Occasionally, I'll have to book a sub, but that's not that often. And then on bass, we have a longtime Chicago guy named Gordon Patriarca. And Gordon's just a rock solid bass player, good friend of mine. I think I met him originally with Jason in the EAS band. He did a few gigs with us or something like that. And so he's rock solid on that. And what we've also done now is add a non-playing member this year. We've got a guy named Jim Richards. And Jim is just a top-notch sound reinforcement, lighting, video kind of guy. And he's a super guy. And it's taking a lot of the pressure off of me to have to be doing everything on these shows and keeping track of all details. Now Jim's there to, take care of that kind of thing, and also to observe what's going on when we're on stage. Because that's been a problem, not being able to know always what's going on out there.
Sure, it's a good guy to have.
Oh, absolutely. We also, when we do Billy Joel shows, we'll call on a good friend I met in Deacon Blues as well. He goes by Cash Michaels is his stage name, and he's has a magnificent sound on sax. So with the Billy Joel show, you really need to have, a sax, obviously. It's such a huge part of the whole.
Have you written any music?
Yeah, I have. I do have music on Spotify. It's just under Brian Harris. And actually, I just released a song on a piano piece that I did on Simply Brian. So if you search Brian Harris artist on Spotify, you'll find a playlist of a lot of most of my music.
And what is in what vein is that?
I would say some of it is perhaps closer to like Steely Dan per se, probably, but there's a good bit of instrumental, which is more like jazz. I don't want to say fusion might not be the right term because that gives a certain impression, but it's jazz with, kind of rock influences on it and that kind of thing.
Somewhere or other, there must surely be the face not seen, the voice not heard.
So, I always keep dabbling on those kind of things, and I don't have, huge expectations, but I think it's great for any musician to write music, even if you don't do anything with it, or if you do, that's even better.
Sure.
But it's a good thing to go through the act of trying to write music, and it expands your musical horizons a little bit, so to speak. I sound like a music teacher saying that, but I think it's really true. Whatever you can do, and even for musicians that don't consider themselves singers, trying to sing, trying to sound like, at least do backing vocals, that kind of thing. A lot of people just close their mind to it, but it really expands your whole musical nature when you try to do things that, you may not have done before. I've tried to do that my whole life, over time.
Do you have your own studio at home that you record in, or do you go in a studio?
Yeah, I have my own equipment. I wouldn't call it a studio per se, but we do have, when my son, Grant, was doing Breathe Electric, and then which turned into Gold House. When we redid the downstairs, we had it finished. It was a basement, and he definitely wanted included a vocal room there for it. So we do have that, and I can use that. And I have, a lot of equipment. I use Apple Logic for recording and that kind of thing. That's because I own Macintosh, that was an easy choice for me to make. I think the biggest problem for me with recording is that I just don't have the time to focus on all the things that a producer does. I mean, there's just so much that I don't know, but if I spend time doing that, then I'm not spending time working on my Elton act or on my originals writing or whatever it is I'm trying to do. So there comes a point where there's only so much time in a day, but I try to be at least functional in recording. I can come up with a demo that, okay, maybe when we get somebody who really knows the ropes, they can make it better.
Sure. Now, you said your parents were very supportive in getting you lessons. Were they musically inclined, or did they play? You said your sister did, right?
Yeah, everybody in the family was. My brother and two sisters, both musical, and my parents. I can still remember when we'd have people over, and we had a family organ, and my dad would play it, and he would. With the rhythm box played. I mean, we're talking like 70s and that kind of thing. They were not what they are now. But he was a good player. He always told me learn how to read, because he didn't read, and he regretted that he'd never learned how to read music. But he would tell me he would play guitar and sing on a local radio station in like 1932 or something. My dad was older when I was born, and he would tell me all that. So he had a nice voice, and he played. And my mom is now 98, and she is still going to the piano in her assisted living place and playing a little
God
bit.
Bless her. Good.
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
That's
she's
great.
Yeah, she's doing well, and you can talk with her, and she it's great. My sister out in Connecticut now, would play the harp and did some flute My other sister, piano. My brother, also guitar, and he grew up with the Beatles, so he was just an absolute Beatles freak, you know.
Right.
Kind of thing.
That's great, and you're passing it on to your children too as well. That's great.
It's true. Yeah, there's a lot of musicians in the Harris family.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, how do we find where Simply Elton will be playing, or you have a website or on Facebook? Or
Yes, you can go to simplyelton.com, just as you would normally spell it, simplyelton.com. There's a schedule page on there, and you can see videos of the performances. And then, of course, there's a Facebook page, just Simply Elton on Facebook. If you search on that, you'll find it. And there's a lot of videos. I've got videos of live shows. I've got videos of last year when I was doing some free online events. I was going
to say, did you do any simulcast, or I guess live streaming, I guess?
Yeah, I just did them on Facebook. And I think I probably did eight or 10, something like that, all told over time. And people just seem to, especially at the beginning, like when I was doing that in April and May or whatever it was, people were they were starving for something to do.
Oh, yeah.
Those are some dark days, as we all can remember. And, so it was good. I was not going to try to monetize it or anything like that. I just, I think we did some benefits for Feed America or something like that. We tried to encourage things, but I did have a lot of fun doing it. What was really weird was just playing this song and, really big ending and go bang at the end. And it's absolutely,
you're quiet.
You're in your basement and there's no sound. Yeah. And it's like, okay, next song.
Just a wife yelling, "Are you almost done?"
Well, actually, she's not like a technical person that way, but she was great manning she would be upstairs and she would be manning the Facebook, the Simply Elton Facebook page. And, we did some all request shows. And she would come down and she would hold up the song, she would write it big enough so to make sure I could read it. And she would, monitor that and respond to people and, whatever their requests were. There weren't too many I couldn't play. I do know a lot of the songs, but he's also got like 400 or 500 songs or something like that. Right. So I'm not going to know all of them. Right. But, I can always say, well, if I don't know it now, I can play it next time.
Right.
And I'm sure Bernie Taupin's writing more.
I'm sure. Yeah. It's really amazing to actually learn more about those guys, over time doing it and doing the act and you get drawn into it more. And
yeah, they were like the Lennon and McCartney of the 70s. I mean,
yeah. Well, yeah, for sure.
But the way that he would write, Bernie would write the lyrics, and Elton would I read where he feels the music. He could not even be through the poem or through all the lyrics, and he's already got the song working in his head.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing to me.
It's interesting too that how transactional it was. Like Bernie wrote the lyrics and gave him the paper and off Elton went. That was the interaction.
Right.
But it's a brilliant, I mean, if it works, it's brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's great. I find Elton's songwriting style, after having learned so many of them, and the way he uses his harmony, but also his use of inversions on chords and things like that, it's quite unique to his music, which there's really not a whole lot going on like that during the 70s where people were getting into that kind of thing. But I think that shows Elton's training too, in its very best light, because sometimes people think that, learning to read music or this kind of thing will, it might spoil something. And it's like, no, I don't believe that myself. And I think Elton's a good example of he just had such a wide, such a broad musical experience early on, and he brought it in his own unique style. When we play now this year, Someone Saved My Life tonight. The way I talk about that song, I think that is one of the most original and unique piano intros in rock and roll history. It is so cool, and he starts off with an inverted chord with that first chord, and it's so cool, and people just know it. And I mean, it's just so. It's like I say, it's unique and identifiable as Elton. That's him all the way.
Right.
I think, from performing them too, it's not easy to just add an Elton song to your list. Not so much for me, not so much the piano playing, the piano playing and the chords and everything like that. That's the unique style in which he fits words into a phrase. There's nothing quite like it. And it's not something that necessarily comes intuitively to you, but that's part of its brilliance, is because it's right. So original, right. And the way he fits the words in. And, you almost feel like sometimes, well, I got to put these all in here. So he just kind of would improvise and find the way he'd want to sing it. And then he did. And then once it's on vinyl, I mean, it's just forever now, it's just, incredible. And, but it's a challenge to learn it, to sing it right and phrase it right. But like I said, that's why it's so good, because It is unique that way.
Well, we thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys. Nice talking with you.
And good luck with continued success with your Simply Elton and any of your other projects in your own writing and whatever.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
We'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thanks.
You were right, Ray.
I was?
Yeah, he is a educated musician.
Yes, he is. Very much so.
And a very nice guy, too.
And very talented.
Yes, a very nice guy. And he's got Simply Elton. He's got
Simply Billy.
Yeah, who else is he?
He's got, he used to play with all the Melvis guys. And, he's still in demand.
Yes, he is.
They still want him to play with a bunch of bands. And, he talked about the difficulty in playing Elton John material and stuff. But he said he was with Deacon Blues. That music isn't the easiest stuff either.
No, it certainly isn't. Certainly isn't.
So you have to be quite talented to be able to play that stuff.
And that he is, and he's playing quite a bit. He says he's got about two thirds solo shows, right. And about a third of his shows are with the band. He said he liked to flip flop that, but if you get a chance, get out there and see Simply Elton, whether it's solo or whether it's with his whole band.
Right. If it's a venue near your home, tell them you want to see Simply Elton with the band. Let them know. Tell them that's who you want to see.
That's right.
And maybe they'll come to your town.
Okay.
He said he's booked every weekend through the rest of the year. So that's fantastic news. Things are opening up.
Yes, it is. Yes, they are. Yeah, and thank goodness they are.
That's right. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here at the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66 in beautiful downtown Joliet in our podcast studio.
Yes. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and go out there and check out Simply Elton, or just get in touch with us.
Yeah.
Get in touch with us via our Rock and Roll Chicago group page.
The group page. We have our on Facebook. We've got our website. You can send us an email.
And tell us who you'd like us to interview.
That's right. So send it to Paul at rockandrollchicago.net or Ray at rockandrollchicago.net, or just send us a message on Facebook.
That works too.
Yeah, it works too.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye now.
The Rock and Roll Chicago podcast does not own the rights to any of the music that's played on this podcast.
The music is used to promote the band or musicians that are interviewed.
Rock and roll Chicago.